this was another important part of the hearing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does not have a law degree, and once again, proving that people put way too much stock in credentials. She actually made just a forensic and extremely effective case for getting into this guy's Trump, of course, sure to be incredibly dirty tax returns, I would imagine.
First, my colleague from Vermont had asked you several questions about AMI, the parent company of the National Enquirer. And in that, you mentioned a treasure trove, a quote, treasure trove of documents in David Pecker's office relating to information assembled from all these catch and kill operations against people who potentially had damaging information on the president. You also mentioned that the president was very concerned about the whereabouts of these documents and who possessed them. Does that treasure trove of documents still exist?
I don't know. I had asked David Pecker for them.
So you would say the person who knows the whereabouts of these documents would be David Pecker?
David Pecker, Barry Levine, or Dylan Howard.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I want to ask a little bit about your conversation with my colleague from Missouri about asset inflation. To your knowledge, did the president ever provide inflated assets to an insurance company?
Yes.
What?
Who else knows that the president did this?
Alan Weisselberg, Ron Lieberman, and Matthew Calamari.
And where would the committee find more information on this? Do you think we need to review his financial statements and his tax returns in order to compare them?
Yes, and you'd find it at the Trump org.
Thank you very much. The last thing here, the Trump Golf Organization currently has a golf course in my home borough of the Bronx, Trump Links. I drive past it every day, going between the Bronx and Queens. In fact, the Washington Post reported on the Trump Links Bronx course in an article entitled, "Taxpayers Built This New York Golf Course and Trump Reaps the Rewards." That article is where many New Yorkers and people in the country learned that taxpayers spent $127 million to build Trump Links in a, quote, generous deal, allowing President Trump to keep almost every dollar that flows in on a golf course built with public funds. And this doesn't seem to be the only time the president has benefited at the expense of the public. Mr. Cohen, I want to ask you about your assertion that the president may have improperly devalued his assets to avoid paying taxes. According to an August 21st, 2016 report by the Washington Post, while the president claimed in financial disclosure forms that Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, was worth more than $50 million, he had reported otherwise to local tax authorities that the course was worth, quote, no more than $5 million. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether this specific report is accurate?
It's identical to what he did at Trump National Golf Club at Briarcliff Manor.
Do you know, to your knowledge, was the president interested in reducing his local real estate bills, tax bills?
Smart
Yes.
guy.
And how did he do that?
Obviously.
What you do is you deflate the value of the asset, and then you put in a request to the tax department for a deduction.
Thank you. Now, in October 2018, the New York Times revealed that, quote, President Trump participated in dubious tax schemes during the 1990s, including instances of outright fraud that greatly increased the fortune he received from his parents.
Witch hunt.
It further stated from
It's a
Mr.
witch
Trump,
hunt,
quote,
folks.
he also helped formulate a strategy to undervalue his parents' real estate holdings
Leave
by
families out of it.
hundreds of millions of dollars on tax returns, sharply reducing his tax bill when those properties were transferred to him and his siblings. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether that specific report is accurate?
I don't. I wasn't there in 1990s.
Who would know the answer to those questions?
Alan Weisselberg.
And would it help for the committee to obtain federal and state tax returns from the president and his company to address that discrepancy?
I believe so.
Thank you very much. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
Excellent. And necessary, and everybody really should read the New York Times report on Trump's family and how they, how they hid money from the federal government and set up this trust fund and all that, because I think, that's the type of thing that is a reflection of American oligarchy. That's not about the Trumps per se. This is so many other things. Trump is the perfect embodiment of all of the pathologies of our society.
Take a look at everyone else in his cabinet, and if they come from money, i.e. Betsy DeVos.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about Trump Russia. This is about like oligarchy and how it operates intergenerationally. Basically.
Well, that was actually another thing too that was interesting to me about the hearing. And some people are saying because, Michael Cohen said that the BuzzFeed story, which we already knew was inaccurate, that, again, it loops us back to all this Russia stuff, which I'm just, I'll reiterate the company line here. We'll see what Mueller says. I think there might be some slight variations of disagreement in this office about the Russia thing, but not anything dramatic. And we already know that there were sketchy connections and sketchy meetings. Does this amount to some type of like grand conspiracy? I think no. I think we can just start to say that. I think that that's very clear unless something totally new emerges by, Mueller. And what was fascinating to me was that all of the questions that emerged more in that kind of fever dream, like stuff alluding to a P-tape and other stuff, not only did Cohen say no, he actually, I would say, in my view, he enhanced his credibility by actually being like this same guy that I've basically said is a huckster racist who would not give a power peacefully. No, he wouldn't do that. And no, that's ridiculous, right? But the most effective indictments of Trump were just going, as AOC so effectively did, on stuff that we already know. Like, we know that the fortune is built on tax schemes. We know that all of this stuff is built on ripoffs and corruption and abuses. We know how this whole thing works. And we know that Trump has been involved in his own, uniquely grotesque, petty, odious way in all of it. And we'll see what Mueller says. And again, anybody who says there's nothing to do with Russia, I mean, that's demonstrably not true. But even the extent to which there is stuff to do with Russia, it is so clearly on this pattern that it could just as easily be Israel, the United Arab Emirates, or the fucking, whatever Bronx local officials were involved in this stupid golf club. That's the game. That's it. And it's actually quite disgusting. And it's actually a serious fundamental structural threat, indeed, even to our democracy, if you want to use that language. So, the biggest hits were on how grotesque is it that this racist is in the White House? Or let's look at the dude's tax returns. This is clear stuff. All right, I'm going to read a few more IMs and then we'll keep going through this video.